Akira, if you're listening, I'm going to body you in Eunice next time you show up. He knows.
I'll have to make sure I tag him in this then.
Yeah.
Hey guys, I'm the Philosopher, and welcome back to another episode of FGC Philosophy, where we combine the world of personal development, philosophy, and fighting games to help you guys succeed. Today, I got another special guest. It's Jay. He's the event organizer for Michigan Masters. Got another one happening in 2017 here, or 2018, excuse me. And it's coming up in April, I believe. But how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing fine. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. So I guess give a little backstory. How did this all get started?
So Michigan Masters is the longest running FGC tournament in Michigan. It's been going on since 2009, I believe, possibly 2008. It's traded hands a number of times. It's always been a community-run event. Back in 2009, I believe it was being handled by people like Aaron S., and I can't even remember some of the names back then. It's traded hands to being run by people like Jim Nardeshia, Daniel Streety. It combined with YomaCon for a couple of years, and that's where it kind of got lost in the balance. And then last year, one of the other event organizers around here, Jason Walraven, decided to bring it back, brought me on staff with a couple other people, and it was very apparent that, I was the leadership quality of that group, and I just kind of took it and ran. Everyone said, give the man a space. He's obviously the one that knows what's going on here, and I kind of just inherited it from that. So last year was the proof of concept that, hey, this tournament's back. It's bigger than ever, and this is really the year where we set our eyes on new heights.
Nice. So what led up to you running this event? Like, what were you doing beforehand?
So I've been part of the FGC since I'm one of the dreaded 09ers, more or less. Loved Third Strike. I'm a Third Strike loyalist, and I played that a lot in high school and things, but I never really realized there was places to play in tournament until Street Fighter 4 happened. So I'd always been in the scene since 09. 3, maybe 4 years now, coming close to 4 years now. I joined a company called Dead State Pavilion, which supplies gaming setups for conventions like Shudokan, YomaCon, and many other ones. We go as far as even Kineticon out in Connecticut. And I was hired in with them just one day to help run some brackets. They loved what I did and hired me on full time. And so I've spent a number of years running tournaments at conventions. And that's kind of how my name got thrown into the hat for people who could potentially help out with this.
So you've been doing this in some capacity for a good while then. Okay, that makes
sense. It's I'm no spring chicken to this at this point, but there's many aspects that as we're growing and expanding that I got to learn on the fly and kind of teach myself a lot of things, because every step up is another new boat of potential issues you have to make sure you're aware of.
Right, definitely. So this is a question that always fascinates me for people, because I think it makes or breaks people who do wind up succeeding or thriving in this kind of environment or any is what really drove you or drives you to actually continue to do this? Why do you do it?
I feel like I've always said that I just feel like there's a void there and someone has to do it. And some days I hitch my pants up on the idea that if I'm not doing it, who will? But I think that's a very defeatist attitude of what I'm doing, and paints it as if I don't enjoy this. At the same time, it's stressful. Like this stuff's not fun. It's really not enjoyable to do sometimes, but the end result of seeing all that hard work go into something and getting a product that you can truly be proud of, and a once in a lifetime opportunity of you make an event, and this isn't your job. This is your passion project. This is your child that you raised, and you saw it off to college and it came back with a degree. There's a unbelievably real sense of joy from that. And I work hard because I get to see all these people enjoy things. Going back to that first tournament I ever ran with Dead State Pavilion, it was a really large Smash tournament. They had never really had that many people show up for Smash 4 before. I had never run a bracket, and I just did whatever I thought was the best thing to help that tournament move along. And, people towards the end of it came up and complimented me on it. And it was a 4-hour tournament. So 2 people who were knocked out earlier, they ran and got me Jimmy John's like on the house as a way of saying, thank you for running the tournament so well. And it's that kind of feedback loop. Like what you're putting in, you do get out in the same way. And like, I love this. It's really hard and really taxing and sometimes really not fun. But at the end of the day, I'm always very proud of what I do. And I always look at, okay, what can I do next? How can I make this better? How can I make a more enjoyable event experience?
Okay, that makes sense. I like that. So when it comes to improving, how do you keep the mindset or what kind of mindset do you have when it comes to, doing better the next time or learning from your mistakes?
It's hard, but you have to like not be defensive about things. And it's a fatal flaw like we all have as humans is we don't want to hear what's wrong. We don't want to have someone come up and say like, hey, that part sucked or that part was an issue or something went wrong here. It's just not fun to hear and no one enjoys it, but you have to take that into consideration. And I guess in a way, I'm very blessed with the fact that I've started so small. And so every like step has been a very small incremental increase. And I've never had to put myself in a situation where I'm so far in over my head and I'm kind of just kicking and screaming at the waterline trying to stay afloat. Like I've had enough time to really kind of build up what I'm doing and learning along the way. So when problems do arise, and Lord knows they do arise, I'm also one of the people behind the tournaments that happen at Youmacon every year. And those tournaments are very stressful. A lot of things go wrong. And sometimes it's nothing I can do. And sometimes there's a real like lesson to be learned from that I take home and I go, never again am I going to let this happen? So, I've always, my small incremental creases have let me keep my failures to a minimum and learn from them without sinking the ship. And so I really think that that's a big help is I'm not taking on too much. I'm taking on just the right amount where if something does go wrong, it's a learning experience that doesn't, set the world on fire.
Yeah, for sure. That makes a lot of sense. And it makes me think, I've been doing a lot of research on this term and trying to like embody it, which is the Japanese term of Kaizen. I've talked about it a few times. Are you familiar with that term?
Not really.
So I'll paraphrase. Basically, in the Japanese term, like it's a philosophy that most people embody, especially in like corporations nowadays. But it basically means incremental growth every day. So they have the mindset of every day we try to look for ways to improve. Every day we just do a little bit better, not like significantly, but just we're looking for that information. Almost like higher level fighting game players, when they have a fight, they're always kaizening their gameplay. When they're fighting somebody, they're learning and they're adapting. That's basically the concept of kaizen. In America, it's not as common because a lot of ego is in place, and we're younger as a country, so I think that has a lot to do with it. But no, what you're talking about definitely sounds like kaizen, where you have this good Goldilocks zone where you have enough stress to keep you moving forward. Stressors, I should say, where they're making you improve because you have to adapt to them, but you're not so overwhelmed, which is really interesting. I think there's a lot to say about that. Like with anything, with fighting games, for sure, you have to challenge yourself. But you also don't want to put so much workload on yourself that you're just overwhelming rather than actually growing and achieving these challenges. So that's really interesting. For people who are trying to get started out with event organizing or want to do it, what kind of advice or tips would you give them?
It's really about cultivation. You are only as strong as the people around you who are going to show up to your events at the end of the day. And this is something I really try to bring home. And this is important for anyone who's watching this. I don't do everything. I am only one piece of the machine. And if anything, I'm the figurehead. Like when people say, oh, the tournament, that's Jay's, they're, seeing that because I'm the public image, but Lord knows, like, these events do not happen without the people around me who work, but also the people who come to these events. So you have to start yourself off at a level that you understand the people there. You're looking for a need that needs to be filled. It's a very much a supply and demand market. If there's no one there, your event's not really going to kick off. You can only do what the supply asks for. And now, especially with Dragon Ball out, this has never been a better time to help cultivate, because there's so many people fiending for this game across everything. Years and years and years ago, there was this issue of the one person trying to be the scene, the one person trying to get people into fighting games, trying to cultivate talent, taking new people and trying to turn them, into people who could play competitively. I want to say professionally, but that's not the right word. It's competitively. And it's a really, really hard thing to do. I lived in Mount Pleasant, Michigan for all of college because I studied there. And it's a podunk nothing in central Michigan. And as hard as I tried, there wasn't anything I could really cultivate there. Just because that's the area, and at that time, there wasn't an interest in it. So you have to keep yourself grounded to understanding what you want to pull off versus what you can pull off. And I don't mean to say that in a way that's like, hey, don't shoot for the stars, kid. But understanding the amount you can draw to an event then lets you dictate how much you can put towards that event. How big does my venue need to be? Is this something I could just run out of my house and have people show up? Is this something I need to rent a venue for? Do I need to make sure people are bringing additional setups? Or does what I have at home, if you have multiple setups, supply enough? You really need to be super conscientious of what's out there for you to make around. It's the people that make the event. You're just the one that helps put it together.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense. So when it comes to, I guess, the delegation and well, actually before that, when it comes to the actual players and people coming and spectating and watching, what have you learned that keeps the people coming back?
Entertainment value. I guess that's really just the one thing to mention is, people want to watch, and there's nothing you can really do about that, but people want to watch exciting sets. People want to see, people be invested in it. Like any UFC or professional wrestling match, the crowd gets into the match that feels, the hypest, the realest, something that's got stakes on it. And you can't fabricate that in, the FGC world, but when people show up and they see something that they can connect with and that they really enjoy, that's what keeps them coming back. When they see people in the crowd go wild for someone playing or a really close set, even if they don't understand it, they can relate to it. So that's really what helps that. Yeah,
definitely.
The other thing is what keeps people coming back is and on a casual level, it's just that they're welcome there, that this isn't, a pro players club only. On a competitive level, it's that there's enough to keep people there and keep people happy in terms of saying, like, your game's represented, there's setups for you. There's the necessities that you need to make sure that what you are supposed to be doing in this tournament goes off without a hitch. So there's lots of different sides of it to think about. But the overall consensus is if they came and they're entertained by this, they'll think about doing this again. And you need just to make sure that whether it be at the macro stage or the micro stage, that people are enjoying themselves. If that's putting on fantastic, big staged events, that's great. If that's just coming up and talking to someone who looks a little lost and, letting them know it's okay to sit down and play sets with people, that's just as important.
Okay. And kind of a funny story. At Frosty Faustings, were you at the Windjammers tournament?
Yes, I was.
So,
I was the commentator for top 16 to finish that.
Shout out
Two play rough.
So then you probably saw this. One of my friends, his name was Spray Paint the Vegetables.
Yes.
He's one of my team members. He was on there, and this was like a really funny thing for me because I usually am very reserved and quiet. But this was the first time one of my friends is on stream besides Smash tournament, and I always go hype for them too. But he was on there, and so I was alone sitting there. I was like, oh snap, he's on stream. I'm going to support him, and I just started yelling at the top of my lungs, just supporting him, just being silly. And then I hear one of my friends from all the way on the other side of where the seats were, and he starts screaming. So I go over there and hang out with him, and then my whole entire squad rolls up because they just hear us yelling at the top of our lungs. And by the end of one of his matches, like people were just like cheering for him. It was a really interesting feeling because like I'm not gonna say that I alone did it or that my friend did it, but just definitely us just yelling. People were brought to the scene to watch what was going on, and like it just got really hype and just kind of steamrolled. So it's like kind of cool being a part of that and seeing that, and then a lot of my friends joined in. And it's definitely a good feeling. It's definitely really cool when like you roll up with some of your friends and you do that, and you support them, and then just like that craziness ensues.
Corner, 9-3, match point.
Mohawk Mike tries to intercept and get a possession. No, tries to intercept
match.
Again.
That is match. Hit this man's music in victory. Hit this man's music. My God, he did it.
Yep.
He did it. Hit the theme music.
Yeah, Windjammers was a really wild trip. The people who were kind of behind that were really passionate about it, and they tried to make sure that the crowd could feel, what was big, what was important. That was a really wild time. I had a lot of fun there, especially on commentary. Really, really fantastic blast of an event. I got to sit down and talk to K-Kun afterwards, so that dude's really cool.
Nice.
A lot of fun stuff in that. And yeah, I definitely get behind that. I am consistently known as being one of the loudest people at tournaments.
All right.
Yeah, I was blasted out of my mind 11 a.m. on Friday at Frosty Faustings yelling at the 2v2 tournament with my partner. And I was yelling so loud that both the mainstream and the side stream could hear me, and they both hated it.
So I'm hoping you're going to be hype at Michigan Masters then.
I have to be reserved because I'm the head guy, and chances are while the cool stuff's going on, I'll be behind the scenes making sure things are still working. But there's always a good chance that I'll be there.
All right, yeah, you got to get you a designated hype man or something.
There's always people that take care of it, but it's my time to work, not my time to play.
Okay, I can respect that definitely. So, kind of a general question, but what can we expect from Michigan Masters?
If you haven't been to a Michigan Masters before, what you can expect is games being treated with equal love and care. And by that, I mean every game there I find as being pertinent and important. The main ballroom is not just going to have Street Fighter and Marvel and Tekken and Dragon Ball, because those are your biggest games right now. It's going to have all the your other anime games like Unist, and I think right now, and this I can't guarantee this at the moment, but I believe right now my main ballroom layout does include Catherine and Windjammers. Like, I'm putting the games that I deem like all importance under the same roof. And I've got 4 ballrooms as well. So it's not going to all be in the main ballroom, but from there I've tried to also make sure that everyone's in their comfort zone. One ballroom dedicated to Smash 4 and Rivals. There's one of the rooms is going to be the Melee setup as well as Bring Your Own Console. And then quote unquote poverty games, which could be a disparaging title if you don't know of that before. And the old man games, the stuff run on the boards, will be in a separate room. I'm trying to make sure everything's kind of in a place where it can be shown as equal to everyone else. Like, there's no, and I don't want to say this by throwing other events under the bus, there's no higher power versus lower power. I'm trying to make sure everyone comes in here is represented, because it doesn't matter how cool of a match you had in Tekken 7. I can assure you there's going to be just as cool of a match in Breaker's Revenge. Like, everyone should be there. Also, on the administrative side of things, I've got some fantastically talented people hired on the head TO staff. Both Icy Glaceon and Blue are very good at running brackets efficiently. They take no nonsense from anybody, and they are a crucial part to making this tournament go off without a hitch. I'm very happy to have them on board. It's going to be a fantastic event. There's going to be just a ton of different places you could be, a ton of different things you could be engaged in, and it's going to really be one of the biggest events that we've had in Michigan, and I'm 100% certain it's going to be the biggest event we've had, like, without a doubt.
That's great to hear. I'm a Michigan local, so this is the first Michigan tournament besides like Youmacon, which was like 2 or 3 years ago, and I didn't even enter any. I didn't know about it until I got there, so it was way too late.
Was that the one with the stages, or was that the one with the people like the picnic tables in the backgrounds?
No, it had like a it had like its own little like arcade room back there, and I did only stop by for like just a little bit because I didn't even know it existed until my friend told me about it. But like they had DOA there, that was like on a big projector. They had Marvel 3 there, and then they were playing something else. But yeah, it had like its own nice little arcade room, pretty much.
Yeah, that's usually part of the game room. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because there's been always many iterations of how the Youmacon tournaments go down. It's fun dealing with that. But yeah, Youmacon's definitely one of the big ones for people to come by, see what's going on, and be like, "Oh, these are tournaments. Where else does this happen?" And on we go.
For sure. Yeah. Do you foresee So I like to see more tournaments in Michigan.
Yes.
I know Detroit's very big. I live over in Kalamazoo, where it's not super dense when it comes to fighting game people. But what do you think that we can do? And we'll use Michigan as an example, but people watch this all over, and if they want more of a scene in their area, how can they help to build that up a little bit? You did talk a little bit about location is somewhat important, but how do you start that?
It's all about finding that people have interest, and then kind of showing that like what you're putting in, you get back out. I think that's a lot of thing that like turns people off is like, oh, I'm just getting beat up again. I'm not really sure what I'm doing. My interest in this is waning. And there's a, time traveled sunk cost that you have to put in. Like for you're in Kalamazoo. So there's really not a whole lot in terms of local scene around you. If you want the good competition, you're going to have to travel to Grand Rapids. And that's a bit of a test of, how ingrained in this are you? How dedicated are you in this? And for people coming into the scene and like kind of cultivating that experience, you need to make sure that it's an experience worth repeating. Even if you're not super certain about where you are on the skill tree or the skill level, if you go from Kalamazoo to Grand Rapids and you have a good time and you enjoy yourself and the people are good, you're still more likely to come back and say, okay, well, maybe I could just learn a little bit more, have some fun, or the people there are very nice and helpful and they'll help teach me more the next time I go. So having a strong base is really important, and making sure that base has people that are inviting and not toxic or outwardly aggressive. 'Cause, if you're not having a good time, then you're not coming back. It's just basic. That's up and down business anywhere or any sort of community idea. So start from the core, expand outward, and then guarantee. You can't guarantee, but try and make it as best as possible that what people put in, they're also getting out. You're making some sort of investment to be here. Make sure that there's some sort of return on that investment.
Definitely. And also shouts out to the Grand Rapids FGC, because they were very accommodating when I visited a few times. So
yeah, they're cool people over there. There's some cool people over there. Most of the people I know have all like moved because I haven't been there in a couple of years and they're all old heads, but I still know a couple of people out there. Akira, if you're listening, I'm going to body you in Eunice next time you show up. He knows.
I'll have to make sure I tag him in this then.
Yeah. We were gonna have a money match at Frosty's, but we both knew we couldn't pull it off at that point. We were too busy. So
I understand.
This is how it goes.
Okay. So I don't know the official name for it, but there is something called the frustration barrier, where you're learning something new. And you're trying to get past that.
Yeah.
When it comes to, I guess, TOing or, organizing events specifically, like what did you do, or what steps did you have in place to help you get past that frustration barrier?
Work within my means. That's really just the part of it is don't overexert myself in an area where I can't guarantee it's going to pan out, because this isn't. Let's back up for a second. This isn't my job. I work a 40-hour weekends or weekday. I have another small business on top of this with my team where I make apparel and I sell it. And then I also do tournament organizing. So I'm a really busy man. And I need to make sure that whatever I'm doing isn't adding more unnecessary stress and frustration to my life. So when I set out to do things, I make sure at first that I'm working within my means, that I'm not going to be putting myself in a bad position that I need to then work myself back from or fix. I'm not playing with matches in front of gasoline and then figuring out how to put the fire out, if that makes sense. Like, I go with what I know, and then when that's guaranteed, I expand upon it in safe-ish, but also acceptable ranges. That's really the point. And you can't take every loss at face value. That's a really hard one as well. Because you're going to be putting out events where sometimes people won't show up. And, like, they should be showing up. And everything in the stat book, everything on Jim Leland's pitching count says that he should be pulled out at this moment. But sometimes the numbers just don't work out and people won't show up. You can't take that personally. You can't take that as a defeat of the entirety of you doing things. There's always going to be a loss associated. I have not run perfect events 100% of the time. I've had events where I didn't get anywhere near as many people as I thought I should have. And I've had events go south that I've had to pull from the fire and, make a product at the end of the day that worked. So your failure is not final, nor is it absolute. Work within what you can do to make sure that the fire is not going to start. And then if you know a fire is going to start, make sure the fire extinguishers are nearby. That's the best thing I can say is understand your risk reward. And if you see too much risk going in, make sure you at least know how to accommodate for that. Just try and play it as safe as you can. And don't take failure as a final absolution. Makes
sense. Fail forward, so to speak. Yeah.
Learn from that's another one. Yeah, learn from your failures. Every time you lose, just like in fighting games, every loss is a learning opportunity, and you really got to take that one home.
Definitely. I like it. The last question, I never thought to ask this before, but when it comes to specifically organizing events, what do you do to get the word out there? Like, how do you say, hey, this is what's going on, come check us out?
I am in multiple Facebook fighting game groups. Not only here in Michigan, like Metro Detroit area, but Grand Rapids, Lansing, Traverse City, and those are the centralized ones on location. But you also have to account for your groups based on game interests, like the Canadian Air Dashers or the Toronto ST Facebook groups. It's all about networking. Who you know will get you where you need to be. And part of what's made me work as this is because I've been around since 2009, which, good Lord, it's almost a decade now. So people know who I am, and I know who people are. And every time I meet someone, I try to make that connection. So when I say, hey, I'm having a big event, and you're not from Michigan and you should show up, they're going to be able to put a name and a face and an experience with that person and go, okay, well, I know that guy. Hopefully they also think, yeah, I think he could put on a tournament. It's all about networking. You can't be a tournament organizer from the shadows. It's just not possible. You have to put yourself out there and promote and make experiences happen on a personal level, which then you can kind of quote unquote cash in on when you need to promote your next events.
Sounds like sound advice to me. The last question that ties into all that is if people are interested in Michigan Masters or interested in getting in touch with you, how can they do that?
They can find me on Twitter mainly. My personal Twitter is @MRUSUK, Mr. Usuck. That's my handle. It's really bad. The official Twitter account for the tournament is MI Masters FGC. The registration page is smash.gg/MM2018. That's the big stuff. If you ever need anything, the DMs on my page are open. I talk to anyone at all about any questions. So please always feel free to talk to me. That's no problem at all. That's the big stuff. There's a Facebook event for Michigan Masters 2018 if you prefer to find it that way. And that's really kind of the best ways to do it. Twitter, SmashUG, Facebook.
There you have it. Okay, well, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show. This has been a great conversation. Always learning, always trying to improve. So hopefully you guys got a lot out of this as well. If you did, definitely hit that like button. Press the subscribe. Ooh, I can't even speak. Press that subscribe button. And let us know what you thought down below. If you're going to Michigan Masters, if you've been there before, leave some comment and let's get that conversation going. But as always, my name is The Philosopher. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I will see you all in the next one.